She stood there in her red blouse, smiling like she owned the world, pointing at me while the bulldozer ripped through the old hunting cabin my grandfather built with his bare hands. Police cars lined the road. Officers stood like statues behind her, and she said loud enough for everyone to hear, "You didn't pay your HOA fees, so this is what happens." I gripped the shotgun tighter, not because I planned to use it, but because it was the only thing keeping my hands from shaking. The cabin wasn't just wooden nails. It was the last piece of my family's history. "You can't do this," I said. She laughed. "Actually, I can. And when I'm done, you'll be out of here for good." The neighbours were filming, whispering, and I felt the humiliation boiling in my chest. Everyone thought I was powerless, just another man about to lose everything to a woman with fake authority and too many connections. She leaned closer, her perfume cutting through the dust. "Go ahead, call someone. Nobody's coming to save you." I looked at her, then at the cops, who seemed way too calm for what was happening, and said quietly, "That's the part you got wrong." I reached into my coat like I was reaching for comfort, but pulled out something that made the woman's smile wobble. My federal judge ID clipped where everyone could see it, and a small recorder blinking with the last 5 minutes of her orders. I kept my voice low. "You just ordered a demolition on disputed land you don't own. That's not an HOA notice. That's trespass and fraud." Her eyes narrowed. The policemen behind her shifted like sheep, sensing thunder. I watched her count her allies and realised some of them were hired hands, not real deputies. I told the crowd, "All your videos are evidence now," and tapped the recorder, which had already uploaded a backup to my lawyer's cloud. The neighbour with the drone froze mid-air. Someone else lowered their phone. She tried to laugh it off, then blurted, "You can't do this. I run this neighbourhood." I smiled and said, "You don't run my land." "I do, and I have people who work for the law who answer to one name, the marshal." Her face went white. Somewhere down the road, a siren started to rise, and for the first time that day, the power shifted. The sirens grew louder, echoing across the lake until 3 black SUVs rolled up behind the police cruisers. The officers, who had been standing like statues, suddenly looked uneasy, shifting back toward their cars. She straightened her shoulders, trying to look unshaken, but I could see her grip tightening on that stack of fake papers she carried. The doors opened, and real federal marshals stepped out, their vests shining under the sun. One of them walked straight toward me and nodded. "Judge, we got your call." That single word, "judge," hit the crowd like a stone dropped in water. Phones started recording again, but this time all eyes turned on her. She tried to cover it, snapping, "Don't believe him. He's lying. He's just pretending." But the marshal cut her off, taking the papers right out of her hand. "These aren't government documents. These are forged." She went pale, stammering, No, this is a mistake." I leaned in just enough for her to hear me over the murmurs. "You wanted to humiliate me in front of my neighbours. Now you're about to be exposed in front of the whole county." And right then, the bulldozer operator killed the engine, stepping out slowly like he didn't want to be part of this mess anymore. The silence that followed was heavier than the sound of destruction. She spun around, desperate now, pointing at the officers she thought were on her side. "Arrest him! He threatened me with a gun." Her voice cracked, and for a second I saw the panic leaking through her polished smile. The cops froze, caught between orders they weren't sure were real anymore. I lowered the shotgun, set it gently against the fence, and raised both hands. "Go ahead," I said, calm as stone. "Check your system. My name's already in it." One of the younger officers tapped his radio, listened. Then his eyes widened. He muttered something to the others, and they stepped back. She realised the shift before anyone said a word. "Don't listen to him. He doesn't belong here," she screamed, but her voice carried more fear than power. Now the marshal held up the recorder, replaying her own words. You didn't pay your HOA fees, so this is what happens." The sound echoed over the quiet crowd. She lunged for it, but another marshal caught her wrist. Gasps spread through the neighbours, phones lifted higher, and someone whispered what everyone was thinking. "She's finished." I just stood there, watching her empire of lies crumble in the same dust that had once been my grandfather's cabin. And yet, deep inside, I knew she wasn't done fighting. Not yet. Her eyes darted wildly, searching for any last lifeline. And then she did something no one expected. She yanked a set of car keys from her pocket and bolted toward the nearest cruiser. For a moment, the crowd froze, unsure if it was another bluff. But when the engine roared to life, people scattered, shouting. A marshal stepped forward, hand on his weapon, but I raised my palm. "Wait!" The tyres screeched, gravel flying, and she tried to tear out of the cul-de-sac like she could outrun the law itself. But halfway down the road, another set of lights appeared, county sheriffs blocking the exit. She slammed the brakes, smoke curling from the tyres, and for a split second, she looked cornered but defiant like a trapped animal. The marshals moved in, but instead of surrendering, she rolled the window down and shouted, "You people don't understand. He's the dangerous one. He's been hiding secrets from all of you." Gasps rippled through the neighbours. My chest tightened. Not because she was right, but because she was about to rip open something I'd fought to keep buried. I had built my life on quiet authority, on never revealing more than I had, too. But now, the secret I'd kept locked away was about to become her last weapon. The street fell silent, except for the ticking of her idling engine. Neighbours leaned forward, phones trembling in their hands, waiting to hear what bomb she was about to drop. She pointed straight at me, her voice sharp like glass. "Ask him why he never shows his face in court here. Ask him why he hides out in that cabin. He's not just some judge. He's the one who signed the order that sent my brother to prison." A collective gasp broke through the crowd. Eyes turned to me, searching for confirmation, doubt mixing with curiosity. My jaw tightened, memories pressing hard against the walls I had built around them. She thought she'd found her trump card, the one truth she could twist into poison. I didn't flinch. I stepped forward, voice steady, but low enough to make everyone lean in. "Your brother didn't go to prison because of me. He went because he burned down 3 families' homes for an insurance scam. I didn't hide that ruling. I stood by it." Her face twisted, anger spilling out in waves. "You ruined my family," she screamed, gripping the steering wheel so hard her knuckles went white. The marshal leaned closer to her window. "No, your family ruined themselves." And while everyone focused on her rage, none of them noticed me glance at the hilltop where a second bulldozer sat, untouched, engine still running. It wasn't part of the HOA's plan. It was hers. A low rumble rolled down from the hill, and every head snapped toward it. The second bulldozer's headlights flicked on, glaring through the dust like 2 burning eyes. My stomach clenched. She had planned more than just humiliating me. The machine lurched forward, tearing through brush and pointing straight toward the crowd. Neighbours screamed and scattered. Kids dragged by their parents, phones shaking as they filmed the chaos. She leaned out the cruiser window, laughing now, the sound sharp and wild. "If I lose everything, he loses too." The marshals rushed to intercept, shouting at the operator to stop. But the figure inside the cab wore a ski mask and didn't hesitate. The ground trembled with each roll of the massive tyres. For a heartbeat, it looked unstoppable. I moved toward my shotgun, heart pounding, but then froze. Because in that chaos, I realised what she had done. She wasn't trying to destroy the cabin. That part was already done. She was trying to destroy proof. The buried steel lockbox beneath the foundation that held deeds, recordings, and the one document tying her entire fake HOA scheme together. I locked eyes with her across the dust. She smirked, because she knew I understood. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about erasing the truth before anyone could ever prove it. The bulldozer roared closer, its blade lowered, dirt and splinters flying as it chewed toward the half-demolished cabin. Neighbours clung to fences, filming through clouds of dust, while the marshals scrambled too. Push people back. She was screaming from the cruiser window. Crush it! Crush everything! Her voice was manic, echoing over the chaos. I ran straight into the dust, ignoring the shouts behind me. The ground shook under my boots as the bulldozer's shadow loomed over the wreckage. For a split second, I saw the corner of the steel lockbox jutting out from broken boards. If that machine hit it, decades of evidence would be gone forever. My hand shot down, grabbing the handle just as the bulldozer's blade screeched inches away. A deafening crack tore through the air. The machine shuddered, then hissed as smoke poured from its engine. One of the marshals had fired a round straight into its hydraulic line, freezing the blade mid-descent. The masked operator slammed his fists against the controls, but the bulldozer coughed, sputtered, and died. The silence that followed felt unreal, broken only by my heavy breathing and the weight of the lockbox in my arms. I turned back toward the crowd, holding it high so everyone could see. This is the truth she tried to bury. Gasps rippled through the neighbours. Cameras zoomed in, and for the first time all day, she had no words left. She just sat in that cruiser, trembling, as if she already knew the end of her game had arrived. I set the lockbox down on the hood of a marshal's SUV, dust still rising from the wreckage behind me. The officer snapped it open, pulling out deeds, letters and audio tapes with her own voice recorded. Every scheme, every threat, every fake notice. The neighbours pressed closer, their phones capturing every page as it fluttered in the wind. She finally stepped out of the cruiser, shoulders hunched, no fight left in her eyes. A marshal took her by the wrists and read the charges loud enough for the whole street to hear. Fraud, trespassing, impersonating law enforcement. The same crowd she once ruled over with fear was now watching her crumble. Some cheered, some just shook their heads, but no one stood by her side. I looked at the shattered remains of my grandfather's cabin, felt the ache in my chest, and still lifted my chin. You can tear down wood and stone, I said, my voice carrying through the silence. But you can't tear down the law, and you can't take a man's land when it's his by right. The marshals led her past me, and for the first time, she didn't have a single word to spit out. Phones flashed, recording every second of her walk of shame. I rested my hand on the lockbox, the weight of justice, heavy but solid, and knew the cabin could be rebuilt. What mattered was the truth and the freedom she could never steal. As the SUVs pulled away and the sirens faded, a neighbour whispered the line that spread across every video clip, every post, every share online. She tried to bury him, but he buried her instead.